This time, the story centers around a housewife who is also a doctor named Charlotte. Charlotte's married life with Max, an architect, is actually harmonious and without significant obstacles. They have even been blessed with a son named Benjamin. However, behind this harmony, there is a hidden problem within Charlotte herself, a peculiar desire for pleasure. One day, Charlotte was inspecting an apartment and seemed quite satisfied with the various amenities offered there. After completing the payment process for the apartment, Charlotte continued her routine as usual, fulfilling her role as a good mother and wife for her family. That day, Charlotte informed her husband that she would be coming home late the next day because she had to work overtime at the hospital where she works. The next day, even though Charlotte is a doctor, she often personally checks on her patients one by one. On that day, her attention was drawn to an overweight patient covered in hair all over his body. Charlotte then entered the patient's ward and invited him to her newly rented apartment. As you can guess, in that apartment, they engaged in activities like a married couple, not just once but repeatedly. Perhaps this is what the writer means when they say that Charlotte has a peculiar disorder. After satisfying her desires, Charlotte appeared to be giving a lecture to medical students. This raises the suspicion that, besides being a doctor, Charlotte might also be a professor, a fact worth noting. The next day, Charlotte resumed her duties, examining patients one by one. Today, her attention was drawn to a half-bald man who seemed to enjoy the smell of bad breath. Once again, Charlotte invited the man to her new apartment, as if she just wanted to experiment with him. After finishing her strange behavior, Charlotte returned to her family, enjoying a vacation and playing with them. Nothing seemed suspicious, and Max, her husband, still loved Charlotte very much. After spending time with her small family, Charlotte returned to her secret apartment. This time, Charlotte brought an old man as her partner in her forbidden activities. That day, Charlotte and her husband were supposed to have a meeting with the school, but due to her crazy activities, Charlotte arrived late, and Max began to grow suspicious. Lately, Charlotte has seemed very lethargic and has lost her zest for life, something that is starting to worry Max. Not even halfway through the story, the gloomy atmosphere of the film is already felt. The next day, Charlotte visits Max at the construction site where he works, with plans to have dinner together. While waiting for her husband to finish his work, Charlotte decides to take a look at the building Max is designing. As Charlotte enters the building, she is shocked to find the half-bald man she once slept with there. Charlotte screams in fear, and the bald man tries to calm her down but ends up getting slapped by Charlotte. Moments later, Charlotte seems to snap out of it and looks like she's about to apologize, but instead, she hits the man again before suddenly fainting. When she regains consciousness, Charlotte finds herself in the hospital with Max loyally by her side. A few days after the incident, Charlotte meets with a psychiatrist. Charlotte tries to explain what has been happening to her. At first, Charlotte praises Max, considering him the perfect husband. However, in the middle of her story filled with praise for her husband, Charlotte pauses, seeming hesitant to continue. The psychiatrist then asks why Charlotte chose to engage with men of different physical characteristics and ages, even though she already has a handsome and successful husband like Max. Charlotte explains that she wanted to experience a different kind of sensation, from body shape, age, to physical appearance, all far below Max's standards of attractiveness. A shocking and controversial answer, revealing how deep Charlotte's issues run. Max patiently tries to ask why Charlotte rented an apartment instead of using a hotel, as if all this had been carefully planned. Hearing the question, Charlotte just sits in confusion. After the session with the psychiatrist ends, Charlotte sits in a park. Her gaze is empty, but occasionally she cries, and at other times, she laughs without any clear reason. The psychiatrist's evaluation eventually reaches the medical authorities, and the next day, they hold a disciplinary hearing for Charlotte. As a result of Charlotte's actions, she was dishonorably discharged for breaking the rules. Additionally, her confession to the psychiatrist, indicating that she did not feel guilty, showed that Charlotte has serious mental health issues. This led to her medical license being revoked, meaning Charlotte would no longer be able to work as a doctor in the future. After hearing the decision, Charlotte returned to her secret apartment, but this time accompanied by her husband. There, Charlotte felt deep sadness and regret, but she was unable to express it to him. Silence enveloped them, with neither of them starting a conversation. A few years after the incident, Max and Charlotte had moved to India and had twins there. It seemed like Charlotte was beginning to recover. She lived her life with the help of a housekeeper since their home was quite large. Sometimes, Charlotte would visit Max at work, bringing him lunch. However, the trauma Charlotte went through left a scar on Max's heart, especially when he saw Charlotte alone with another man. Even so, for the sake of his wife's recovery, Max patiently guided her. One day, Charlotte visited a project her husband was working on, but the staff there told her that Max had moved to another building. Nevertheless, Charlotte still insisted on entering the building and was seen walking in alone. At the same time, Max had gone home, bringing lunch for his wife. However, Charlotte wasn't home, and their housekeeper revealed that every morning, Charlotte often left the house alone. This made Max suspicious of Charlotte again. One morning, Max secretly followed his wife after she left for work. It turned out that after Max left, Charlotte immediately went out. Filled with suspicion, Max continued to follow the vehicle carrying his wife until it stopped at an abandoned building where Max used to work. Max followed her up to the top floor, where he saw Charlotte sitting in a corner with her eyes closed. Perhaps Charlotte did this to calm herself and prevent her mental illness from relapsing. Max continued doing the same thing in the following days to reassure himself that Charlotte had truly changed. And indeed, Charlotte had changed. She did this to reflect on her mistakes and prevent stress that could negatively impact her mental health. The film ends with a lively night as Max and Charlotte finally reconcile, accepting each other's flaws and past mistakes. So, that's our film for today. No one is perfect, as everyone makes mistakes. However, those mistakes reflect our shortcomings, and self-reflection is how we cleanse and correct them. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.